What is up, everyone? I hope you're all having a great day. Now, you join me back to essentially a half-scaped aquarium, which will all become clear in the video in a minute. But I want to create a proper flooded forest, rainforest vibe, houseplants coming out the top, half full of water, cool animals in the bottom. There is so much to do for this project, and that's why it's half-scaped now, because, well, I've already been working on it. Now, this tank has been in the works for, well, quite a while, to be honest. Regular viewers will have seen like little clips of this tank in previous like update videos and maintenance videos just sat there. And there's a few reasons for that. One reason for that is I wanted to create this flooded rainforest jungle vibe in here. And I wanted to use cork bark tubes for that. And cork bark tubes are notoriously floaty. That has caused me a few minor inconveniences with them floating, but we have got that fixed now, as you can possibly see, sort of. The other reasons was other projects just got in the way. My garage build has been going on, I've had other scapes that I've wanted to try and do, and this one's just sat there, and because I was in no rush for it, I've sort of lived with it and looked at it and finally worked out what I want to do. But first, I do need to show you how I fixed these cork bark tubes to make them sink, essentially. It was tricky. I have used cork bark before, but in different settings, and this one posed a few little niggles and a few little issues, but nothing major. So we'll go back in time. I filmed a lot of that. To be honest, it was nearly a video in itself with how much gluing and zip tying and all of that sort of stuff I had to do. So we'll go back in time, probably about a month. You can watch me fix this and I'll wait here for you. And when you come back, I'll talk you through the next step of the scape. Now, if you've watched my better Blackwater cube aquarium that I done a little while ago, you'll have seen this box. Now, this is all a bit out of timeline and out of sync because I know that I've got to, well, essentially do some things with the stuff that's in this box to make sure this tank works. It's going to take a little bit of work, a lot of gluing, not a little bit of gluing, and quite a lot of soaking to make sure it works. Now, a massive shout out to Riverwood Aquatics, who have essentially sponsored the scape of this video and have sent me all of this so I can hopefully bring my vision to life. Now, if you're unaware of who Riverwood Aquatics is, they are an awesome aquatic shop over in the southeast of England, in Suffolk, and they do some amazing hardscapes, some amazing rock. I've got to get back over there, to be honest, but it's hard. Time is hard, and time is, well, short at the moment, but check out these bits of cork bark. Now, cork bark is a bit of a nightmare because it floats, and that's why I've got to get the prep work for this tank done today and not leave it any longer, because I think this is going to take a while to float, to sink. That's what I meant. Right, let's get this box out of the way. So Pete over at Riverwood has picked out some awesome pieces of cork bark. Now, like I say, there are a couple that aren't in this box because I've been, well, essentially testing the best way to achieve what I want to achieve. Is that all of them in here? Yeah, that's all of them. So the other one is behind me, next to me, sorry. And this is what I've done. So you can see that I've put lots of tissue, lots of glue all the way around this piece of sort of slate, hefty bit of slate. And, well, that's sort of sinking it, but not perfectly. Now, as I've already shown you on the first one, we are just going to be using chunky bits of slate and gluing these pieces of cork bark straight to them with the help of some cyanoacrylate glue, which should bond these really, really well. But I'm also obviously going to be using some tissue paper because that's going to act as our sort of medium that will go off like plastic, essentially. This stuff here is all that tissue just soaked with glue, and it has gone off like concrete. So yeah, let's get gluing so we can get this tank started and underway. I just realised I was using the wrong glue. This stuff is way better because it goes off way quicker than this other one that I was using. So let's crack on with this one. So irritatingly, this next one doesn't have a flat base. Well, it does, but the contact point on that's going to be tiny. So I'm thinking if I wedge that up in there, I've got all this contact point to glue and all that contact point to glue, and that should stick it quite well. And just to show you how good this glue works, I'm going to glue it and show you how quickly this stuff sticks. So we'll jam that in there. Now I don't know if you'll be able to see, but sometimes the tissue smokes when the glue goes on it, like so. Yeah, you definitely saw that. Now that's gone off. Now I don't know if that'll be enough to hold it, but yeah, that stuff is super strong. That's one bit of tissue, one bit of glue. Yeah, that is quite strong. Anyway, let's get the rest of it glued. All the cork bark is in and glued, and essentially all I'm going to do is fill this up a little bit, let the cork bark soak some water in, and then, well, maybe hopefully fill it up a little bit more and a little bit more, and it'll be a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before we're fully settled. But I will bring you guys back once these are waterlogged and they're vaguely sinking, and we can actually properly scape this tank and make it look like a proper underwater forest. I'm so excited. I didn't even scape it. It already looks cool. So that is how we fixed all the cork bark tubes and got them to, well, start to sink at least. Obviously a massive shout out to Riverwood Aquatics because they picked out some amazing pieces of cork bark, and it is exactly what I was looking for, that tree stump sort of vibe, I guess. Big tree trunks in a rainforest, flooded out. Yeah, it is exactly what I wanted. Now I'm also going to be using a lot of the leaf litter that Riverwood sent me, and also some of the seed pods, just to give it, again, that sort of tree canopy has dropped into the water. It's left loads of stuff that all the fish can search through. And I think that's going to look so good once it's finished. But anyway, we need to get on with this build. Now first, I do need to get, as good as they look, you know, they look okay like this, I do need to get them into position and get them essentially how I want them. And I'll be totally honest, I've sat here many evenings, looked at them and gone, that could go there, that could go there, that could go there. And I've changed my mind every time. So we're going to get all this out. I think we're going to start bare tank. It is going to be a bit wet, but if we start with a bare tank, at least we know we can get the scape in how we want it. Now next we are going to drain a lot of this water out. As much as this is going to be sort of vaguely mature water, it's been sat in here a while. I've been soaking the cork bark. I've done a few water changes, but it's probably not water I want to keep for the final result, as it were. I don't know how many, well, actually, it shouldn't be holding that many nutrients. With that many water lettuce floating on top and absorbing all the nutrients, there's probably no nutrients in there. But there's loads of mulm and horribleness and broken down water lettuce leaves in the bottom. I want to start with a vaguely clean slate, even though I'm going to put leaf litter back. So we're going to get all that siphoned out, clean the bottom, and then we're going to be ready to rescape. And also, it will be easier to scape with no water in it. For anyone that watched the White Cloud Mountain Minnow, cold water or temperate scape or whatever I called it, I was trying out a new light unit from Interpet on there, and I've got another 2 to go on this tank. One is already running on there, and I have just been running one recently, and it's actually been really bright. But I am going to run the second one next to it. But I've just realised, I thought, oh, I'll get it out of the box, I'll put it on now. But that will actually block my access, so I'll have to move it out the way anyway. So we'll get the secondary light unit on in a minute. We're going to get all this cork bark back in and see if we can make some sort of jungle, tree stump, flooded forest. Well, you get the idea, don't you? Now that is pretty much how those pieces of wood sort of fell in. I've not really thought about it. I put them in, I angled them, I messed around with them a little bit, and they sat. So as long as all the ones that I have put down low don't float, we will be absolutely fine. Now I didn't want to put too much rock in here. I want the emphasis of this tank to be like, I don't know, organics. So like leaves and seed pods and the bark and yeah, just a bit more sort of foresty. But I think a few jagged rocks will work. Obviously, we're not talking about like a fast-flowing stream where all of the rocks would be rounded and smoothed over. I'm thinking swamp, I'm thinking bottom of the rainforest, flooded forest. So in my mind, all of the rocks will be quite jagged. So I have these. Now these are essentially our natural stone from around the area. Nothing exciting, it is literally just stone out of the fields.
Always had a way to make it work and find another route. Always had a way to make it work and find another route. Always had a way to make it work and find another route. Always had a way to make it work and find another route.
Now I am going to leave aquatic plants out of this aquarium for the minute. I've got a few that I think I want to put in there. I've got a big stem plant. I can't remember its name, but it's a big leafy stem plant that goes like really woody, grows like, well, like a weed. I think that would look good in the back, just sort of growing out and over. But I want the main focus to be those plants that are above the waterline, and then the floating plants on the surface. That's the main focus. But anyway, we'll get to that once it's, well, got a bit of water in. And again, I can live with it for a little bit and see how the scape evolves. Now next, I do want to get this second light unit out because I want to see what it exactly looks like with, well, 2 bright lights running over it. So let's go get that one unboxed, get that one set up. We've got to link it to the app. And on the app, you can link the 2 light units together to run them as a pair. So when you change the settings for one, it changes the settings for the other, which makes life so much easier when running 2 light units. But anyway, let's go get it unboxed. So as I've already said, these are the Interpet Aquasmart LEDs, and I have been running one up on my minnow tank for, well, quite some time now actually, and they has done great. Now let's get this out and get this set up. Now, to be honest, they come mostly set up. There's not a lot to do with them other than linking them to the app and also deciding how you're going to mount them. I think it's here somewhere. There you go. There's a bit of a shiny light, but you can mount them into old fluorescent tubes. You can mount them on like over tank luminaire style with the clips on them. So other than deciding how you're going to mount it into the aquarium, unwrapping it and plugging it in, there's not a lot of setup to do. Now they do come in a range of sizes. These ones here, because the legs are extendable, these ones go anything from 59, hang on, it's there, 59 centimetres up to 80 centimetres, and it's only 24 watts, so really doesn't pull too much power. But you've already seen how bright they are on the tank, well, that we're working on now. Once I've got 2 of these on, those floating plants and the terrestrial plants that I've got planned are going to do really well. The other thing I also really like about these light units is they have got a 3-year guarantee on them, so you are covered for quite some time. And also they're like IP67 or something silly. It's like, where is it? IP67 watertight. So yeah, you're really not going to have any troubles with them. And if you do, you've got a 3-year guarantee. It's a bit of a winner, really. The only problem is I'm a bit rubbish at using the scissors by the looks of things. There we go, so that's those legs that I was talking about. You can see on the ends there, they just slide out, and then you've got the sort of mounting clips that you can put them onto the glass runners. Well, that's going to be a satisfying peel, isn't it? Yep, like that. Anyway, that's it. That's the plug. That's all your fittings if you're going to fit it into an existing like light unit or anything like that. Different clips and things. But yeah, really, we just need to go and sit this over the top of the tank, plug it in, and get it connected to the app. Now, excuse all the houseplants tucked around the top. I've realised I've put that in the exact place that the leg needs to go for this light unit. Yeah, so excuse the houseplants because they will be used in here in a bit. Now, let's get this over the back there. Like so. Pull the leg out a little bit at the front. Ah, lovely. Now, I think we need to run them a little bit in because I've got a plant coming up there. Nothing there, but 2 plants at the back, sort of like, oh, that was a bit, yeah, no, that didn't work. But yeah, you get the idea. That's stuck now. I hope I've got a spare plug socket for this light. Now, because I'm creating a new aquarium, I thought it'd be easier to put these 2 lights onto, well, whatever I'm going to call this one. So let's call it, I don't know, Blackwater Cube. That sounds good, doesn't it? And then that's the 2 light units that I want on it. So on, create group. We've got the Blackwater Cube on there. On, save. That should take me back. Excellent. Now we can do the manual controls. Oh, this has had an update since I last saw it, actually. Okay, cool. So these sliders weren't on there last time. But you can see that's actually changing the look of the lighting. Wow. I'm not too sure blue is very Blackwater, but, you know, it's there if we want to use it. But we are going to ramp this up full white, full red, because I think that's going to give us that like yellowy orange sort of look. We might want to ramp the white down a little bit, but we'll see. But there are loads and loads of different settings you can go through in here. Manual timers, so you can set up when you want your lights to come on and come off. Not honestly too sure why these are set to midnight. Probably because I've been doing this on the manual one recently. But once we get this tank fully set up, we'll get all of the timers set up properly, and running. These are all the presets as well that you can do. So you can do all the different colour mixes, storm intensities, all sorts of stuff on the app. So yeah, but for scaping, we're just going to run them on the standard lighting so I can see what I'm doing. And then once I've got some animals in here, I'll worry about setting up the timers. I'm going to fill the tank up. Now, normally I would do any planting in the bottom now so that I can get there easier. But I want to see what it's like full. And I also want to see what water level we're working with. You know, there's no point in me planting something in the back where the sand is banked up slightly if the water level's only going to be that deep above it. But it's not, but it will be a little bit deeper than that. But I think if we get the water level in here to the level we want, which I think is somewhere, you know, around that mark, then we'll be able to see what space we've got for terrestrial planting and aquatic planting. But the terrestrial planting is the one that I want to use the most. I'm not overly bothered. I want lots of shade, I want lots of leaves, I want lots of like hiding places for the fish going in here. So now that we are full, and I think the water level is where we want it, we've got loads of houseplants to put in here. Now, I'm not going to put all of these in, but we have got like, I don't think I can hold this box, hang on. We have got things like these guys, which essentially are like a pothos. They're Epiperenum, golden pothos, this is the easiest way. And I've got a variegated pothos, I've got a spider plant. Then up here in my little 3D printed trays, we've got a load of baby, what are these? Peace lilies, that's the word I was looking for. I have got some ivy, but I don't think I'm going to put that in. I think I'm going to grow that like on the top somewhere. We've got a little selection of different tropical ferns that are going to look good. And also, lastly, we've got the Fittonias. And these red ones, which I can't ever remember the name of. Oh, they are Fittonias. There's another species that looks very similar. So these are the variegated ones, and they've done really well in the rummy nose tank upstairs. So I thought I'd just, well, put them in this tank down here as well. I think they're going to work really well. But we've got to fill that top area now with plants. All of these holes that you can see are going to be filled with plants. And then I've got a little idea to make some... Sorry, the dog's below me, so if you heard that, that was her going back to sleep. What was I saying? Shelves. I've got some spare bits of cork bark that I'm going to make shelves with and put some plants on. So, yeah, we need to clean off a lot of the soil on these plants, though. They can't be going in with this amount of compost. So we are going to start the houseplant processing with this really nice peace lily. Essentially, it was reduced because, well, all the flowers had gone over. But we don't mind about that, we just want the foliage. So all I'm going to be doing is using this black bucket to break off as much soil as I can. The white bucket in the distance is going to be used to wash off any leftover soil. And then the clear one, well, that can be where it's stored until I'm ready to chuck it in. Oh my word, these roots are well matted together. Well, let's crack on and get muddy. So it's annoying and great at the same time that this just fell and came into about 30 different little plants. I wanted it as one big lump because that hole right there was going to be filled with all of that. But yeah, now I'm going to have to be a bit more precise and choose which ones go in there and which ones support each other. So with those few little plants in, you sort of get the idea of where I'm going with this. So I'm just going to crack on and try and get as many of these houseplants in the water as possible. Obviously their roots need to be in the water if I'm washing their soil off. I'm hoping that I might be able to leave a few of them in the pots and just tuck the pots in the tops of the cork bark tubes, but there's not that much room, so we'll see how we get on. But yeah, commence planting, but not underwater, which feels a bit strange. Just been sat here contemplating the tank and having a look at it, and I like how it's all coming out. The only thing I don't like, can you see this big grey expanse here? Where one branch goes over, it leaves a bit of a gap. Now I have got a few little pieces of cork bark. What I'm hoping to do is like almost bridge the gap so it looks like a branch has grown out and sort of stuck into the river bank or the rock face or whatever you want to call it. And then I can tie some more plants onto there to break up that big grey space. And then I think, I want to say we're done. So that's all the planting finished. I think, well, at least above the water, that's all the planting finished. I definitely think it needs something underneath, but it might just be a few like epiphytes and anubias and things like that. Because once we get that leaf litter base in there, there probably won't be much space for plants. But yeah, I think a few hints of green under the water. We've chucked some water lettuce back in. We've got all the ferns up, all of the pothos, all of the lilies. Yeah, I think we're good. We are going to plant up those tops as well so that that cascades in. But that'll be done tomorrow because I'm working way too late tonight because, well, it's just exciting, isn't it? When you get a new tank like this, you want to finish it. Now, before I do disappear off to bed, I want to get the filter running on this so it's running until the morning. Obviously, this was a vaguely mature filter because it had been running with plants and floating plants and stuff in there. So I do want to get it back up and running. And for tonight, so that it doesn't cause much noise, because if I turn it on now, it's dropping from somewhere up there down to here, and it's going to make a hell of a noise, and I will be able to hear it upstairs. I have got the spray bar, and I've taped up all the holes in the spray bar so that it doesn't spray water sideways, and I've put the elbow at the bottom rather than on the top. Obviously, it would normally run like that, water in, spray bar out. What I'm planning to do is run it like that so that this outlet is under the water. Just realised I've got a ton of glue on my hand. Hopefully that works, and hopefully that works well enough that I can go to bed. So yeah, let's see. Right, so I'm hoping I can just put that back there. I'm going to angle it into the back of the piece of wood for the minute, because again, I do want this to be swampy sort of thing. I don't want it to be any high flow. I want it to be like a rice paddy flooded jungle thing. Right, let's put that there. Let's see. Well, it should be primed, so let's see if it runs. Well, that does seem to be running perfectly. Tomorrow I do intend on getting the botanicals in here, so we've got a load of leaf litter to go in the bottom, some banana stems I think I picked up, different seed pods, lotus pods. Yeah, I don't know, I'll just have a look at what I've got in my botanicals drawer and see which ones suit and see which ones look the best, I guess, is the easiest way. Anyway, I've got to stop playing with this because I need some sleep, because I need to work on this again tomorrow, and I want to get this finished so I can get some cool fish in here. So the problem with owning lots of aquariums, it is quite exciting, and you do just get like involved in them, and it's now, well, 11:30, so yeah, I'm going to go to bed. I'll bring you back in the morning when we're going to boil up some leaves in a saucepan, but don't tell Katie that it's probably a saucepan we use. See you in the morning. We are back. We have left the tank to clear overnight and that filter has done a great job. It is looking crystal clear. So today I want to get all the botanicals in there. So I want to put some leaf litter in, I want to put some seed pods in, maybe a few, I've got some bigger seed pods that will act as like breeding caves, so I think that will be cool. But I've made sure that I've been watering the plants a lot, because once you've stripped all that soil off, obviously their roots are in the water, but I just want to make sure that they retain all that moisture so they don't wilt and, well, essentially melt. So yeah, we have done that. It is looking grand. When I make the fish informational videos, I've actually realised that there's a lot of habitats around the world that have vegetation on the riverbanks, but very little in the river or stream or pond itself. It has very little vegetation. And that's something that we don't see very often in the aquarium world when we're making aquariums. You know, we put all the plants in the tank. We don't often put the plants above the tank and then nothing in the tank. So, above the tank, nothing above the tank, and then everything in the tank. Anyway, you know what I mean. So, this one I do want to swap up a little bit and change that. But anyway, we need to boil some botanicals, go and have a look at what we've got, and crack on with this build. Now, down in this drawer down here, no, that's bags, not that drawer, that drawer. There we go. So these were also sent to me via Riverwood. Now these are cocoa pods. So literally like, yeah, how cool is that? But I think that'll make a really good little like breeding room for someone. So I've got a couple of those, which, yeah, definitely going to use those. And then we've just got a mixture of leaves. Like that's a thalumbo or thalambo pod. So yeah, maybe use that. What's that one? That's a palm pod, I believe, I think. I'd need to rough up the edge of that one. I don't like it when they've got that like straight cut edge to it. It just, yeah, puts me off. In natural aquariums, you don't get straight lines, and that's too straight. Oh, these are those banana things I was saying about. Are they banana? Yeah, they were banana stems or something. Lotus pods, alder cones. I think we're just going to go for a big mix of all the different botanicals, but 100% I want these pods because I'm thinking like dwarf cichlid or maybe bettas or something that really likes black water will love hiding in them. So we're going to make a bit of a soup in here. Now first up I've got a load of old little oak leaves that can go in there. That's just a starting of our botanical soup. Now the reason I do boil the botanicals is to essentially sterilise them. Next up we've got some alder cones. Now sterilising them just means that, well, hopefully there's no nasties. They're all natural products, so if they do try and bring anything from the wild into the tank, this should cleanse it. This will also help the botanicals to sink and will get some of the tannins and colours out of the botanicals. You can already see that water going yellow. Cacao pod. Now we're going to let the seed pods boil for a little bit longer because they take a lot longer to take on water, but we have got the leaves and the alder cones to go in. Now I just need to make sure that I move that filter inlet so that it doesn't blast my leaves everywhere. Something like that I think will work. Yeah, that means it's just jetting into the back of that rock. Nope, wood. Jetting into the wood. Right, let's pop these in and see how it looks. I think we're going to need more leaves. These cocoa pods have been boiling. Cocoa pops, not cocoa pops. That wouldn't work in a fish tank. Cocoa pods have been boiling for ages, and I don't think they're sinking yet. But I'm going to get them in there. If I need to put a stone in there for a bit, I can weigh them down. So that is all the leaf litter in. I love all the different browns and oranges and yellows. It's like, I don't know, it's just like an autumnal tank. It looks exactly like the rivers around, well, where I live at this time of year, to be honest, or starting to look like this. Well, actually, minus the tropical houseplants that are growing in the top. But you get my meaning. It's literally like a little slice of nature. Now, I've just gone with whatever botanicals I feel like I wanted to use, but you can gear them towards the area of the world that you're trying to replicate, or, I don't know, whatever you want to do. But I've just gone for the ones I liked. I wanted the different tones of the different coloured leaves. I wanted the different shaped leaves. I wanted the seed pods. It's just whatever I wanted to do, essentially, and that's what you need to do. Have fun with it, play around with it, get to know your style, what makes you happy and what makes you like your fish tank. Now, the last thing I want to do today before finishing up and letting this tank settle for a week or two before getting our first animals in here is I want to plant up those pots that I've got on the top with the last couple of house plants because, well, I think once they start growing and bushing up at the top, they'll cascade down into the tank and add even more depth to it. So I've been using my 3D printer to print off these little pots. Now, I'm not very good at designing on a 3D printer yet. I'm still getting used to it. But these are just desk organisers off of the Bambu Labs website, and then I just drilled some holes in the bottom of them once they were finished. I've also printed some little trays for them to sit in, so hopefully none of the water will end up draining back into the tank. Now, what I'm hoping to do with these two trays is I've got a spider plant to go in one, and I'm just going to divide it up and plant it along the edge, and I've also got the variegated pothos to go in the other one. I think those two will work really, really well in those pots and hopefully just add a bit of depth and a bit of colour to the top of the tank as well. Now, one thing I did actually forget to do last night was add some tap water safe, so some of that to get rid of all the chlorine and chloramines, and also some filter starter to get that filter running, even though it probably is full of bacteria anyway. So I am now going to leave this tank for a week or two to settle down, for some of the leaves to release more tannins, because I want that water to look that like stained Amazonian tan sort of look, that yellowy orange. I think that's going to look so good with the jungle up above and then this dark water sort of murkiness underneath. But I'll bring you guys and girls back once this tank is matured and settled down a little bit and we'll be ready to put our first fish in there. And I've been speaking to a few of my friends that run fish shops, and yeah, I think we've got a good plan in place. I think the fish are going to look great. It has been a whole 10 days-ish since you last saw this aquarium, and well, it's good to say that the plants haven't melted. Bonus. The leaf litter has mostly sunk now, apart from the 3 leaves I threw in probably 2 or 3 days ago because I found them in one of my drawers and I was like, yeah, guava leaves, we'll have a few more of them. But I quite like them floating on the top because it just adds a bit of naturalness. It looks like they've just fallen from the tree. But everything is doing so well. Now we have already got life in the aquarium in the way of a load of snails. They are all over the rocks, they're all over the cork bark, they are just feeding off of everything that is breaking down, which is a great sign of life just starting to ramp up. So we are, well, ready for fish. That is the plan today, is to get some fish in there, hopefully, fingers crossed. Now first I do want to test the water to make sure everything is going okay. You can probably see by the colour on the screen that the water has been tea stained now with all these leaf litter and the older cones and the cocoa pods and all of that. It has now gone that nice orangey yellow. Oh, and I also have set the lighting now on a timer. They call them, what do they call them in the app? A preset, that's what they call them. So I've set a preset now with the percentage of light I want, just white and red. I've taken all the blue out because, again, it highlights that orangey Amazon. Actually, it's not Amazon because the fish I've got planned are not Amazonian, but that sort of swampy, marshy sort of look. But anyway, we've got to test the water, check everything's going all right. Then we're going to head to fish shop and pick up our fish. With everything tested, everything is looking good. As always, I've moved a bit of mature media from one of my other filters into the external canister filter on this tank. Just means it matures it a little bit quicker and it gives me a bit of a head start. But you don't necessarily need to do that. As long as you take it slow and you don't go mad on feeding and you test your water regularly, you should be absolutely fine. But we are going out to the shop to pick up the fish. Now, I know a lot of you in the comments from 2 videos ago, 3 videos ago, whatever it was, were asking for coolie loaches. Now the plan is to get coolie loaches into this tank at some point. But with coolie loaches being a bit more sensitive than a lot of the other fish that you can get, I'm going to go for them a little bit later. I'm going to let the tank build up, I'm going to let everything settle, and I'm going to get them later. But first we are going to get some really cool fish in here that I haven't kept in a long time / ever. I can't remember if I've kept them at home. Definitely had them in a display tank at the shop, but yeah, I don't think I've kept them at home. So let's go to the shop, pick out some cool fish and get them introduced to this tank. We are back from the fish shop. We've got new fish. How exciting. Do you want to look at the new fish? New fish? The only problem is I've definitely got a slight leak on one of these bags, so we better get these guys and girls in. Oh my word, that is so wet. That is pretty much where Minnie and Roma have been through the whole filming of this. Weeks and weeks. Every time that I've had the camera sat here, they've been sat down behind me. And essentially every time I sit on the arm of the sofa or I was trying to move them so I could sit down, they'd grumble and groan at me because they had to get out of the way. Now I have put the fish just up on top. You can probably see them. I've just popped them up there for the minute because they are dripping. I don't know what's happened. Both bags still have water and both bags are still inflated, but there is definitely a little pinhole leak somewhere in one of them. Now we need to turn this lighting down, so I just need to log into the app. Now, as I was saying, I have got the preset set up now so that you've got the red and the white coming on at about 6 o'clock all the way through till about 11 o'clock it turns off. So, yeah, that's ideal, really. I'm going to try it on that. I've got about 50% red and about 80% white. So, yeah, that's hopefully ideal for the plants that are in here, but I can always change it. We want to go into manual controls and we want to turn the white all the way down. Can you see what's going on? Wow, that's red, isn't it? And let's turn the red down. Red's not too bad. Red generally doesn't freak the fish out. Right, let's get these fish out of the bag and start acclimatizing. So they've had about an hour now acclimatizing. I've given them a little bit longer than I would normally give fish, just because they're going into, well, a black water, slightly acidic aquarium, and it's probably a little bit different to what they're used to in the shop. But all of them seem like they're buzzing about up in the water, really interested in essentially getting out of the bag. So we're going to net them out, get them in, and let them settle for a bit longer. But so that's one of my character fish essentially going in here. They're going to be lurking in amongst the rocks and the wood and all of the leaf litter and essentially arguing with each other over territory. Next we've got the shoaling fish. So I ended up giving them a couple of extra days to settle in, and I am so glad I did. So the fish that we have actually got in here now are a group of copper harlequins, or what's their other name? Lambchop Rasboras, that's their other name. So they do get sold under a couple of different common names. The other fish we've got in here, which are our like focal point fish, are a group of Croaking Gouramis. And as the name suggests, eventually, once they settle in, they do start making noises. A little bit like a frog, I guess is the easiest way to say it. Now I am really glad that I gave these fish those extra couple of days to settle in before filming them, because I've actually seen a little bit of spawning behaviour between the harlequins, or rasboras, whatever you want to call them. I've seen males squaring up to each other and fighting, and I've seen them, yeah, sort of doing a few dances. So you never know, hopefully we might get some eggs from them, but this isn't really for breeding, this is for more of a display tank. And eventually we are going to add other fish to it, so I do want to hear that from you. I want to hear what you think we should put in there. A big vote last time when I was doing the Barb Community Aquarium was coolie loaches, and I honestly think coolie loaches would suit a setup like this really well. So I am really happy with how this aquarium turned out, and I'm so glad that I left out all aquarium plants. You never know, in the future I may put some in there, but seeing that sort of leaf litter, bottom of a riverbed, bottom of a stream underneath, and then all the lush foliage on top, I think, well, just looks a little bit different to what I'm used to, I guess. As I said in the video, normally we put all the plants in the bottom and no plants out the top, and to swap it around like this, I'm really happy with it. But there we go, all of the plants are still alive, which is always a bonus. I definitely thought some might wilt, but I've done alright in keeping them watered. So if I can continue with that, hopefully they will keep growing. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to be having to thin out that water lettuce already, because I can see it's growing like, well, nobody's business. But yeah, let me know in the comments what fish you think need to go in here. Coolie loaches and then maybe something else. Oh, Romy, you've joined me for the end, have you? You've got to say, I'll see you in the next one. No, you're not going to say it, are you? We'll see you in the next one.